The emergency alarms inside the Galactic Communications Nexus screamed to life at exactly 0400 station time. For the first few seconds, nobody reacted. The alarms had not activated in over 200 years. Most of the exhausted night shift workers assumed the ancient warning system had malfunctioned again. Then every screen in the chamber went black. Senior Communications Officer Varix froze mid-step as thousands of active transmission windows vanished simultaneously. Earth Central Command, offline. Mars Colonial Network, offline. Titan Fleet Relay, offline. Outer Rim Human Trade Channels, offline. One by one, every human signal in the galaxy disappeared. The chamber fell silent except for the piercing alarms echoing through the station. Impossible, one technician whispered. Varix rushed toward the main console, his claws flying across the holographic controls. Run full diagnostics. The station AI immediately complied. Results returned seconds later. All systems functional. Varix checked again manually. Then a third time. Nothing changed. The problem was not their equipment. Humanity itself had vanished. Within minutes. Panic spread to the communications hub. Operators scrambled to reconnect emergency frequencies, while automated systems launched distress pings toward every known human colony. No response returned. Not a single one. That was what made the situation terrifying. Humans were loud. Incredibly loud. Their networks never stopped transmitting. Music, politics, advertisements, military traffic, civilian arguments, entertainment broadcasts. Human space constantly overflowed with noise. Even during wars or disasters, humans communicated more, not less. For every channel to go silent at once was unnatural. At 0600 station time, Ambassador Thauron arrived at the communications chamber still wearing ceremonial robes hastily thrown over his sleep garments. "What happened?" he demanded. Varix pulled up the system map with trembling hands. The holographic galaxy expanded above the chamber. Normally, human territory glowed brighter than any other region in known space due to its overwhelming communication traffic. Now it was dark, completely dark. Every human world, every station, every colony, silent. Thauron stared at the map without speaking. His scales slowly shifted from calm silver to deep blue, a biological response a species could not control during fear. "How many humans are affected?" he finally asked. Varix swallowed hard. "Approximately 40 billion. The chamber erupted into overlapping panic. A cyber attack? A coordinated invasion? Solar collapse? Internal rebellion? Dozens of theories spread instantly through the room, each more desperate than the last. But Thauron ignored them. He had spent 20 years working alongside humanity inside the Galactic Council. He understood humans better than most species. Humans hated silence. They filled empty space with sound constantly because silence made them uncomfortable, which meant if humanity had willingly gone silent, then something had terrified them beyond imagination. "We need confirmation," Thauron said quietly. The room slowly fell silent. "We dispatch a reconnaissance fleet immediately." Some officials objected. If humanity had been attacked, sending ships blindly into soul space could trigger a larger conflict. Others argued humanity may have intentionally isolated themselves due to political instability. But Thauron shook his head. No, his voice hardened. This was planned. That single sentence changed the atmosphere in the room completely. Because if humanity had planned this, then they had hidden it from the entire galaxy. And humans were not a weak species. If 40 billion humans disappear voluntarily overnight, they were running from something, or preparing for something. For hours later, Captain Zyra and the exploration cruiser Endless Dawn departed toward the Sol system. The journey would take 4 days through faster-than-light space. For days during which fear spread across the galaxy, trade routes slowed. Military fleets mobilized defensively. News networks exploded with speculation. Some believe humanity had started a war. Others believe humanity had gone extinct. Nobody guessed the truth. Not even close. 3 days into the journey, the Endless Dawn received the first transmission from human space. The signal suddenly burst across every channel simultaneously. Cold, Automated. Emotionless. Do not follow. The message repeated again, and again, and again. Captain Zyra stared at the transmission, while the stars of the Sol system slowly appeared ahead of her ship. Then her sensor officer turned toward her, his face pale with fear. "Captain," his voice cracked, "there are no life signs on Earth." The bridge of the endless dawn fell into stunned silence. Captain Zyra slowly turned toward the sensor display, convinced she had misheard the report. "No life signs?" she repeated. Her sensor officer swallowed nervously as his hands moved across the controls again. "I rescanned 3 times, Captain. Earth's infrastructure is active. Satellites operational. Atmospheric systems normal. Electrical grids functioning across every continent." He hesitated, "but there are no humans." A cold pressure settled in Zyra's chest. "Expand the scan range." The officer obeyed immediately. Mars, Luna, Titan shipyards, orbital stations, deep space colonies. Every result returned the same impossible conclusion. Human systems remained operational, but humanity itself was gone. The endless dawn descended carefully toward Earth orbit. As the blue planet filled the ship's viewports, Zyra felt something deeply unsettling crawl beneath her skin. Earth looked alive. Cities still glittered across the night side of the planet. Cargo ships floated through organized orbital lanes. Atmospheric stabilizers pulsed over the oceans exactly as human engineering protocols intended. Everything functioned perfectly, except the species that built it had vanished. "Prepare a landing team," Zyra ordered quietly. Nobody argued. The ship descended through Earth's atmosphere toward New York megacity, once one of humanity's busiest population centers. As they approached the surface, the scale of the silence became horrifying. Vehicles sat motionless in traffic lanes. Advertising holograms still flashed endlessly across empty streets. Apartment towers glowed with interior lighting. A train sped through the city with nobody inside. It was like the entire planet had frozen in the middle of normal life. The endless dawn landed near Central Transit Plaza. For several seconds, nobody moved. Then Zyra stepped onto Earth. Cold wind rushed through the abandoned streets. Somewhere in the distance, automated announcements continued repeating to passengers who no longer existed. Transit Line 7 arriving in 3 minutes. A maintenance drone rolled silently past the landing team without acknowledging them. The city itself felt haunted. Zyra walked slowly through the streets with her officers behind her. Inside a restaurant, meals still sat untouched on tables. Steam no longer rose from food, but the scene looked recent enough that the customers should have returned any moment. They never did. In a nearby apartment building, holographic televisions still played human entertainment programs to empty rooms. A child's toy rested abandoned in the hallway. A coffee cup still sat warm beside an active computer terminal. Everywhere they looked, humanity appeared to have vanished mid-motion. No bodies, no blood, no destruction, just absence. "It's like they all disappeared simultaneously," one officer whispered. Zyra said nothing, because the deeper they explored, the more impossible the situation became. If humanity evacuated voluntarily, why leave everything behind? Why keep power grids active? Why automate entire planetary systems before disappearing? And most importantly, what frightened them enough to abandon Earth itself? Hours passed as the team searched the silent city. Then suddenly, "Captain," Zyra turned sharply toward her communications specialist. The officer pointed toward a portable scanner. "I found a signal." The entire team rushed toward him. The signal was weak, deep underground, encrypted with military-level human security protocols. "Can you trace it?" Zyra asked. The officer nodded slowly. "Yes, but Captain..." "What?" He looked up nervously. "The transmission originates beneath Antarctica." A holographic map appeared above the scanner, far beneath the frozen southern continent. A faint pulsing beacon repeated endlessly through layers of ice and stone. Zyra stared at the coordinates. Hidden installation, extreme depth, military encryption. This was not civilian infrastructure. This was something humanity never intended the galaxy to find. "What does the signal say?" Zyra asked. The officer translated the repeating code. His expression changed instantly. Fear spread across his face. "Captain," he looked back at her slowly. "It says—" The scanner emitted another pulse. "If you found this—" The signal paused. Then the next line appeared. "We are already gone." The storm above Antarctica screamed against the hull of the endless dawn as Captain Zyra stared through the cockpit window at endless fields of white ice stretching beyond the horizon. Beneath that frozen wasteland, humanity had hidden something important enough to encrypt with military-level security. Something they never intended the galaxy to discover until it was too late. Thermal scans confirmed. Her science officer reported. "There is a structure nearly 3 kilometers beneath the ice sheet." "How large?" The officer hesitated. "Massive." A holographic image expanded above the console. Zyra felt her pulse quicken. The underground complex stretched for dozens of kilometers in every direction, far larger than a normal research facility. This was not a laboratory. It was a command center. "Begin drilling operations immediately." Hours passed. The storm worsened. The deeper they drilled, the more uneasy Zyra became. Humanity had abandoned entire worlds, but they left this beacon active intentionally, which meant they wanted someone to find it. Eventually, the drill broke through. A massive steel door emerged beneath the ice, covered in frost and human warning symbols. Emergency lights still glowed faintly along its edges. One line of text had been carved directly into the metal. "Northern Lights Project. Authorized personnel only." The door opened automatically the moment Zyra approached. That frightened her more than if it had remained sealed. The corridor beyond was illuminated by dim red emergency lighting. The facility still had power. And somewhere deep inside, machines continued operating after humanity's disappearance. The landing team moved cautiously through the underground complex. Every room looked abandoned in the middle of active work. Computer terminals still displayed calculations. Coffee cups rested beside active monitors. Personal belongings remained scattered across living quarters. One room contained a half-finished chess game. Another still played soft human music through overhead speakers. Everywhere Zyra looked, humanity's absence felt fresh, as though 40 billion people had vanished in the same instant. Then the science officer froze in front of a massive holographic display room. "Captain," Zyra entered slowly. The walls lit instantly around her. Star maps filled the chamber. Complex equations scrolled across enormous displays. And at the center of the room, a massive red wave stretched across the holographic galaxy. Zyra stepped closer. "What is this?" Her officer manipulated the controls carefully. The hologram zoomed outward. The red wave expanded, and expanded, and expanded, until Zyra realized with horror that it wasn't localized. It stretched across hundreds of light years, consuming entire star systems. "What am I looking at?" she whispered. Before anyone answered, the room suddenly activated. A holographic recording flickered into existence. A human woman appeared at the center of the chamber, wearing a dark military uniform. Exhaustion filled her face. Her eyes were red from lack of sleep, but her voice remained steady. "To whoever finds this message," the room fell completely silent. "My name is Admiral Sarah Chun, commander of the Northern Lights Project." The hologram paused briefly. "If you are watching this, then humanity has already evacuated." Zyra felt her breath stop. "We discovered the anomaly 92 days ago," Chun continued. "At first we believed it was a rare cosmic event. Then we realized the truth." The red wave behind her expanded again. "It is not natural." The hologram shifted, showing entire star systems disappearing into the crimson distortion. Reality itself seemed to collapse inside the wave. Stars bent unnaturally. Matter dissolved. Space twisted. Chun looked directly into the recording device. "The phenomenon is a vacuum decay event." Several officers gasped instantly. Even Zyra had heard the theory. A catastrophic collapse of the universe itself. Something scientists believed could theoretically destroy all existence. But it was considered impossible. Something that might occur billions of years in the future. "Not now. Not here." Chun continued speaking. "Our calculations confirm the wave is moving toward the galactic core at near light speed. Once it reaches inhabited space, every known civilization will cease to exist. The room felt colder suddenly. We attempted everything, Chin said quietly. Weapons, containment fields, dimensional barriers. None of it worked. The hologram shifted again. Massive human shipyards appeared on the displays. Thousands of enormous evacuation vessels under construction. So we made a choice. Chen's expression hardened. We chose survival. The officers around Zyra stood frozen as the scale of humanity's secret became clear. 40 billion humans, evacuated in complete secrecy, across the entire galaxy, without anyone noticing. We could not tell the Galactic Council, Chen continued. Panic would have destroyed civilization before the wave ever arrived. Species would fight over ships, resources, escape routes. She paused. And we were running out of time. The hologram displayed a countdown timer. 56 days remaining. Zyra's blood turned cold. The recording timestamp showed the message had been made 1 week earlier, which meant, "We have 49 days left," Zyra whispered. The chamber fell silent. Chin took a slow breath. If you found this message, then there is still hope. The displays behind her shifted once more, this time revealing something even more impossible than the wave itself. A machine unlike anything Zyra had ever seen. Circular, massive, distorting light around its edges. We found evidence that other civilizations survived previous vacuum decay events, Chin said. The room froze. Humanity is attempting dimensional translation. Zyra stared in disbelief. Travel to another universe, another reality. Impossible. Except humans were already trying. Chen's final words echoed to the chamber, like a warning to the entire galaxy. We are not running from extinction. Her exhausted eyes hardened with determination. We are preparing to fight reality itself. The Galactic Council chamber exploded into chaos the moment Captain Zyra finished transmitting Admiral Chen's message. 47 species shouted over one another as panic spread to the massive circular hall. Humans abandoned us. They knew for months. This is an act of war. They save themselves while the rest of us die. Political leaders screamed accusations while military representatives demanded emergency mobilization plans that no longer mattered. None of it changed the truth. The galaxy had less than 50 days before reality itself collapsed. Ambassador Thaurin stood silently at the center podium, watching civilization unravel in real time. And deep down, he understood why humanity kept a secret. Because even now, facing extinction, the species of the galaxy still argued about power, still argued about priority, still argued about who deserved to survive first. Silence. Thaurin slammed his hand against the command platform. The chamber quieted slightly. The humans left us their research, he said firmly. They left evacuation plans, engineering data, and survival protocols. That changes nothing, shouted Councilor Velox of the Kel Dominion. We do not have enough ships to evacuate trillions. Captain Zyra stepped forward. That is not humanity's plan. The chamber slowly turned toward her. Zyra activated the recovered human data. Massive holographic structures filled the air above the council floor. Gigantic circular gates. Quantum synchronization arrays. Dimensional engines. These are transport systems humanity constructed in secret, Zyra explained. Quantum fold gates capable of moving billions across interstellar distances instantly. The room fell quieter. They intended to evacuate entire civilizations. A scientist from the crystalline assembly stared at the schematics in disbelief. This technology surpasses current galactic engineering by centuries. Humans developed it in under 3 months, Zyra replied. That statement unsettled the chamber even more, because suddenly the galaxy realized something terrifying. Humanity had advanced further in 90 days of desperation than most civilizations had progressed in centuries of peace. Another counselor stood abruptly. Then we build them immediately. It's not that simple, Zyra warned. She expanded another section of the human files. A massive countdown appeared. 42 days remaining. Silence consumed the chamber. The wave accelerated. Fear spread instantly across the room. We no longer have enough time for normal evacuation procedures, Zyra continued. Humanity's final plan requires complete interspecies coordination. The chamber erupted again. Species immediately began demanding priority access to transport systems. Military alliances threatened to separate from the Council entirely. Several governments announced they would seize evacuation resources independently if necessary. Exactly as humanity predicted, Thaurin closed his eyes briefly. Civilization was collapsing before the wave even arrived. Then, a new transmission appeared across the central display. Automated human protocol detected. The chamber quieted instantly. A human woman appeared holographically above the council floor, wearing a simple engineering uniform. Unlike Admiral Chun, this woman smiled gently. "My name is Dr. Emily Santos," she said. "If you are watching this, then the Galactic Council is likely experiencing catastrophic political instability." Several representatives looked embarrassed. The human continued calmly. "We anticipated this outcome." More holographic files unfolded around her. Detailed evacuation structures, population prioritization systems, resource-sharing algorithms, conflict resolution procedures. Humanity had predicted nearly every argument currently happening inside the chamber, and already built solutions for them. "They planned for us," Thaurin whispered. The realization stunned him. Even while humanity fought to save itself, they still prepared to save everyone else too. Dr. Santos continued speaking. "The survival of the galaxy depends on one principle above all others." The holographic display shifted. Thousands of ships appeared surrounding an enormous dimensional engine. No species survives alone. The room became completely silent. Dimensional translation requires synchronized activation across every vessel simultaneously. If individual civilizations attempt independent jumps, they will fail. A simulation appeared. Ships activating separately were instantly torn apart by collapsing dimensional fields. Another simulation played. This time, thousands of vessels activated together. All survived. "The mathematics are absolute," Santos said softly. "Unity is no longer philosophy." Her expression hardened slightly. "It is physics." The transmission ended. Nobody spoke for several long seconds, because for the first time in galactic history, survival itself required cooperation, not treaties, not diplomacy, not politics, actual unity. Then Thaurin noticed another encrypted file hidden inside the human database. Classification, Exodus Final Phase. His hands trembled slightly as he opened it. The chamber lights dimmed automatically. New star maps appeared overhead. But these maps showed something impossible. Not planets, not stars, not galaxies, dimensional fractures, energy signatures beyond known reality. And at the center of the display, a destination. Thaurin stared in disbelief. The humans had not simply evacuated. They had found somewhere to go. Another universe. The Convergence fleet waited in the darkness between galaxies. Thousands of ships drifted silently through the void. Their engines, powered down, conserved every remaining unit of energy. Captain Zyra stood on the bridge of the endless dawn, staring at the endless armada surrounding her. Human generation ships the size of cities. Military carriers from dozens of alien civilizations. Emergency refugee vessels packed beyond safe capacity. Everything that remained of 23 surviving species floated together in fragile formation. Billions of lives. One final chance. And somewhere beyond the stars, the vacuum decay wave was coming. Updated projection. Her sensor officer announced nervously, "Impact in 53 hours." The bridge fell silent. They had already lost 9 hours. Reality itself was accelerating toward them. A transmission suddenly appeared across every channel. Admiral Sarah Chun, the exhausted human commander, looked older than before. Dark circles lined her eyes, and gray streaks had appeared through her hair. But her voice remained calm. "All fleets report synchronization status." Status windows flooded the bridge displays instantly. Some ships ready, some damaged, some still incomplete, and several dimensional engines failing entirely. Zyra felt tension tighten in her chest. Without perfect synchronization, the dimensional jump would fail, and failure meant annihilation. 3 fleets remain unsynchronized, her officer reported. Their timing systems cannot match the master quantum clock. How long? Unknown. Zyra cursed quietly. They no longer had time for unknowns. Throughout the Convergence fleet, panic spread rapidly. Families crowded transport corridors, desperately searching for missing relatives. Engineers worked themselves to exhaustion, repairing unstable dimensional engines. Religious leaders gathered in prayer chambers, while soldiers prepared for a battle no weapon could fight. Every species reacted differently to extinction. Humans simply kept working. That frightened Zyra more than panic would have, because humans had already accepted the possibility of death, and still chose to move forward. Another transmission appeared, this time from the Galactic Council itself. Ambassador Thaurin stood before billions of refugees across the fleet. His scales had faded pale from exhaustion. "We are out of time," he said honestly. "No speeches, no false hope, just truth. The wave will reach the sector in less than 2 standard days." Across the fleet, silence spread. "But hear me carefully," Thaurin continued. "Humanity could have abandoned us." Images appeared across the transmission. Human evacuation fleets. Human engineers repairing alien ships. Human transport gates evacuating non-human civilians first. They chose not to. Zyra watched crew members across her bridge slowly stop, working to listen. For centuries this galaxy survived through politics, rivalry, and fear, Thaurin said. But none of those things matter anymore. The holographic image behind him shifted. The vacuum decay wave appeared. A wall of collapsing reality stretching across the stars. Beautiful. Terrifying. Absolute. "We face extinction together," he said quietly. "Or survival together." The transmission ended. No applause followed. No cheering. Only determination. Because everyone understood now. This was no longer about governments, or species, or power. It was simply life against oblivion. 20 hours later, the first visual distortions appeared at the edge of the system. Stars bent unnaturally. Space itself flickered. One distant unmanned probe vanished instantly as the wave touched it. No explosion. No debris. It simply ceased to exist. The fleet watched the recording in horrified silence. Reality was dying, and it was coming faster every hour. Captain Zyra barely slept. Neither did Admiral Chun. The two commanders coordinated continuously across the fleet, while engineers raced against impossible deadlines. Then, finally, synchronization achieved, Zyra's officer announced. Relief swept across the bridge. Every dimensional engine across all surviving fleets was now connected to the quantum master clock. For the first time, the jump was possible. But possible did not mean safe. Admiral Chen transmitted the final operational briefing 6 hours before activation. Her hologram appeared simultaneously aboard every ship in the Convergence fleet. "If the timing deviates by more than 3 milliseconds," she explained calmly, "ships will translate into unstable dimensional layers." Simulation footage played behind her. Entire vessels ripped apart between realities. Billions dying instantly. Fear spread visibly across the fleet. Chen did not hide it. "This will be the most dangerous event in the history of intelligent life," she continued. "But it is also our only chance." The hologram shifted. Now it showed something else. Signals. Strange alien transmissions received from beyond the dimensional barrier. The civilization waiting on the other side. Proof humanity was not jumping blindly into emptiness. Proof survival existed. And proof others had escaped extinction before them. "We are not the first civilizations to face this," Chen said softly. Then her expression hardened. "But we are the first to face it together." The countdown clock activated across every ship. 6 hours remaining. 6 hours until reality ended. Or humanity changed the fate of the universe forever. The final hour felt endless. Across the Convergence fleet, billions of beings waited in complete silence as the countdown clock ticked toward 0. Children slept in their parents' arms. Engineers sat beside overheating dimensional engines they had spent weeks building without rest. Soldiers quietly removed their weapons, understanding they were meaningless now. Outside the ships, the vacuum decay wave consumed the stars. Reality itself appeared broken. Space rippled unnaturally like shattered glass spreading across the universe. Entire constellations vanished inside the advancing wall of annihilation. Captain Zyra stood motionless on the bridge of the endless dawn, while the dimensional engine beneath the ship vibrated with unstable power. Her sensor officer's voice trembled. The wave enters the outer convergence perimeter in 20 minutes. Nobody replied, because there was nothing left to say. Either this worked, or existence ended here. A final transmission suddenly activated across every ship in the fleet. Admiral Sarah Chen appeared once more. But this time she no longer looked exhausted. She looked calm. Humanity had spent weeks preparing for extinction. Now the moment had finally arrived. All vessels, Chen said clearly, dimensional engines to stand by. Across the convergence zone, 3,000 ships activated simultaneously. The darkness of space lit with impossible blue energy. Reality bent around the fleet, the stars themselves distorted. Chen looked directly into the camera. If this succeeds, she paused softly, then humanity keeps its promise. Zyra felt chills run through her body, because suddenly she understood. Humanity never intended to survive alone. Not once. Not even when extinction became certain. The countdown clock appeared across every display. 60 seconds. The final minute. Voices quietly began counting together throughout the fleet. Different species. Different languages. One shared fear. One shared hope. Outside the ships, the vacuum decay wave swallowed entire sectors of space every second now. A wall of collapsing physics, rushing toward them faster than thought. 30 seconds. Dimensional engines screamed under unbearable energy loads. Several ships reported critical failures. Human engineers remotely stabilized them seconds before collapse. 20 seconds. The wave filled half the visible universe. Zyra stared into it through the bridge viewport. It was horrifying, but strangely beautiful too. The end of reality itself. 10 seconds. Every ship locked onto the quantum synchronization signal. 9. The fleet became perfectly still. 8. No more fear. 7. No more politics. 6. No more species divisions. 5. Only survival. 4. Only unity. 3. The dimensional engines reached maximum power. 2. Reality began tearing open around the fleet. 1. Admiral Chen gave the final command. Activate. 3,000 dimensional engines fired simultaneously. The universe shattered. Zyra felt herself pulled violently through impossible space. For one terrifying instant, she existed everywhere at once. She saw endless versions of reality layered together, like reflections across broken glass. Worlds burning, worlds thriving, civilizations rising and falling across infinite dimensions. She heard voices that were not sound, saw colors no living mind was meant to witness. And deep within the chaos, something answered. Then suddenly, silence. Normal gravity returned instantly. The endless dawn stabilized. Warning alarms disappeared. Zyra opened her eyes slowly. The stars outside were wrong. Completely wrong. Constellations had changed. Galaxies shifted positions. Even the cosmic background radiation registered different universal values. They had crossed dimensions. For several seconds, nobody moved. Then the sensor officer gasped. Captain, his voice cracked with disbelief. All fleet signatures accounted for. The bridge erupted. 3,000 ships. Billions of survivors. Not one vessel lost. Against every law of probability, they had all survived. But then another signal appeared on sensors. Massive, approaching rapidly. Thousands of ships emerged from deep space ahead of the fleet. Alien vessels unlike anything Zyra had ever seen. Their designs curved through space in impossible geometries. Light bent strangely around them as if physics behaved differently near their hulls. The entire convergence fleet prepared defensively. Then a transmission arrived. The language was unknown. Yet somehow the translation systems adapted automatically. A calm voice echoed across every ship. Welcome, travelers. The fleet fell silent. We know what you escaped. Massive alien ships slowly surrounded the survivors, not as enemies, but as guardians. We survived the last cycle. More vessels emerged behind them, ancient, beautiful, impossibly advanced. And those before us survived the cycle before that. Captain Zyra stared speechless at the endless alien armada. The voice continued. For billions of years, civilizations have fled extinction separately. A pause. But you? The transmission focused on a united fleet of humans and alien species together, are the first to arrive united. Admiral Chen appeared across all fleet channels one final time. Tears filled her exhausted eyes as she looked upon the surviving armada. We made it, she whispered. Human crews embraced one another. Alien refugees collapsed in relief. Across thousands of ships, survivors cried openly as the reality of survival finally settled in. Chen smiled weakly. We search for hope. The alien fleet ahead slowly opened a massive dimensional gateway filled with golden light, and together, she looked at the united civilizations surrounding her. We became something greater than extinction. One by one, the ships of the surviving galaxy moved forward together into the light of a new universe, not as separate civilizations, not as rivals, but as the species that refused to die alone.